Lately, Apple's Pro iPhones have been feeling really pro, actually, and there's a good chance that it's even more pro than you even knew about. Last year at WWDC, Apple announced a new feature called Dock Kit, which is an API designed to enable control of motorized iPhone stands from within any camera app. It supports any iPhone with MagSafe, and the idea here is to harness the power of Apple Silicon to make accessories a lot more professional. Well, now with iOS 18 around the corner, the first devices with Dock Kit are starting to launch. So Insta360 sponsored this video to demonstrate the Flow Pro. This is one of the first devices with Apple Dock Kit available, and the features it enables are really cool. So first of all, setting up the Flow Pro is ridiculously easy. All you have to do is tap your phone onto the hilt. I like that. I'm gonna call it a hilt. And a setup dialog pops up just like if you were to connect a pair of AirPods. And then you just put the phone in either this clamp mount or the MagSafe version, snap it onto the Flow Pro, flip it open, and you're good. That's literally all you have to do. And then if you go into the camera app and walk into frame, immediately it's gonna detect your face and keep you in frame. It works in any camera, front or rear facing, and in any camera mode. It's just built in to iOS now, which is kind of crazy. All right, so let's briefly go over the controls and how to make the most out of using this with Apple Dock Kit. On the front of the device, there's a joystick which allows you to manually control the camera angle. There's also a record button which works across all apps. And there's a camera swapping button which allows you to choose between front and rear facing cameras. And if you double tap it, it changes the orientation between portrait and landscape. Down at the bottom, of course, is a power button, and at the top there's a series of LEDs you can swipe across, kind of like an iPod click wheel, to change between different modes. There's auto, there's follow, and then there's pan follow, which only changes the pan instead of tilt. And there's FPV, which allows you to kind of create these really cool drone style shots. And it does that by giving you control of the tilt, which is normally locked on gimbals, to keep everything stable. And around the outside is a zoom wheel, so we can change the zoom of the camera without having to touch the screen. And if you hold the trigger on the back, it'll lock the camera. You can also double tap to recenter. Now, the entire thing here is kind of built to be an all-in-one tripod and selfie stick, so I can pull out the bottom like this, and it spreads apart, becoming a tripod. I can also pull it vertically and then tilt it to create a selfie stick. And this mode is great for being able to walk and talk without worrying about framing. I can kind of take my eyes off the screen and look around me, and it doesn't matter if my arms move slightly or if my weight shifts or something, because the camera is kind of doing all the work for me. It's gonna keep me in the frame no matter what. It is nice to just not even have to think about it, which is like the whole point of this setup, right? Now, because of Apple's Dock Kit technology, the tracking functionality, as we mentioned, is gonna be across the board, no matter what app you're using. However, if you use the Insta360 app, you do get a little bit more functionality with that. You can set up a motion time-lapse, for example, allowing the camera to pan over a certain period of time. There's also the time shift mode, which creates a cool hyperlapse effect. And one really cool one that leverages the multiple cameras on recent iPhones is dolly zoom. To set this up, you select the object that you would like to track, and as you move the camera, it's going to automatically adjust the zoom. It's a cool effect, also known as the vertigo zoom. If you've ever taken a film class, you've probably learned about this. There's also widescreen mode for shooting in a cinematic style, and there's live mode if you do live streaming on social media. Now, the typical caveat when you talk about app-enabled iPhone accessories is that usually they are inconvenient. You have to open the app, connect to a Bluetooth device, do whatever you're doing in the app, and then download it to your camera roll. But the Insta360 app doesn't have to do that. Because this thing is Dock Kit enabled, it fires up like that, and the photos and videos that you shoot here are automatically a part of your camera roll. So for once, this is an app-controlled accessory that isn't wildly inconvenient. So if you're going out on a hike, this is the perfect accessory. It will fit in your pocket. You can set it up on a rock if you need to, and you can get some really cool shots without a ton of effort. While working on this video, I took the Flow Pro with me on a hike, and honestly, I was really impressed by the use cases, not just for filming myself, but for tracking onto large things like the side of this cliff face. Even cool stuff like tracking this bird up in the air. I don't know what bird that is, but if you're a bird person, or ornithologist or whatever, put that in the comments. Also, with the iPhone 15 Pro Max, the tracking works really well with the 5x zoom lens. I was a little nervous that it was gonna lose me a little bit here, but it still does a really good job. And a couple of days later, I was shooting a video for my car channel, which is linked down below. So I brought the Flow Pro with me, and it did a great job of tracking onto the car, got some really cool shots that way. And I was just super impressed with the versatility, especially at this price point. It's only $150. And on a related note, I'm really interested in seeing where Apple goes with this dock kit technology, because devices like the Flow Pro can actually get better over time. For example, in iOS 18, they're working on some really incredible framing technology. Apple Developer has a video up that explains a lot of this, but I just think it's so fascinating. They're using the iPhone's image signal processor to create this network of subject and attributes, and then they're feeding that into DockKit.
We then have a subject framing module that takes the chosen subjects as input and using advanced algorithms determines the most visually appealing way to frame them.
So I am very interested in seeing where this technology goes, not just from Insta360, but from Apple and DockKit in general. I mean, it makes sense if you think about it. Like, why not leverage the power of Apple Silicon on a system level to make applications like this possible? And it's not just for gimbals like this. A lot of the examples that Apple shows in their developer videos are more like sort of a home dock. It's kind of like creating the center stage feature that exists on iPads, but with a physical motorized gimbal instead. A great example of this is Belkin's interpretation. It's clearly meant to be more of a kitchen or living room accessory that you can mount your phone on and use for FaceTime calls or Zoom meetings or something like that. But whichever interpretation you go for, I think it's a really cool direction that Apple and that Insta360 are taking. You might not even be aware of it. This isn't like Apple Intelligence. It's not something that's super popularized. So you might buy this gimbal and not even realize that you're taking advantage of this API that Apple developed to make the most use out of it. But that also means that this can get better over time. Insta360 really wanted to emphasize that as iOS 18 comes out, all of a sudden new features are gonna show up, and next year with iOS 19, I'm sure we'll get even more. So it's a really cool concept, and I think it's a pretty nifty little piece of tech. So if you're interested, check out the links down below. Big thanks to Insta360 for sponsoring this video. These types of videos make a lot of really cool projects on this channel possible, and I can't wait to show you some more really soon. So be sure to like, comment, and subscribe, and I will see you guys in the next one.